Coming up, every serious, independent economist argued that massively raising barriers with your main trade partner is an extraordinary act of self-harm. And now, 6 years too late, the extreme right-wing Brexit-backing Express newspaper last week carried the headline, "Brexit blamed as UK exports drop 14%. Britain missing out on global trade." And although the article went on to trumpet the so-called world-beating amount of trade deals the UK has struck since Brexit, it concluded by reporting the Office of Budget Responsibility statement that Brexit has meant a 14% drop in exports, and also it reported economist Gabriella Dickens' comment that UK export growth would remain sluggish as UK exporters continued to be slowly cut out of global supply chains due to the extra administrative burden for EU firms of sourcing goods from Britain. As every single day seems to bring a new reminder of just how stupid an idea Brexit was, is there now a widespread acceptance that every one of those independent economists was right, and that Brexit is a contributing factor to the current cost of living crisis? Stay tuned. If you enjoy these videos, please like, subscribe and hit the bell for reminders of new videos every Saturday. Campaigning journalist, the brave and amazing Carole Cadwalladr, has described the Russian-sponsored Brexit as a cancer, Britain's untreatable tumour, something profoundly rotten at the heart of the British state. And from Carole Cadwalladr right through to the right-wing Express, much of the UK media this week have exposed the effects of Brexit on the UK economy as independent reports of a global average increase in trade of 8.2% and an average increase of 5% in the larger economies during the same period that the UK's trade decreased by 14%. That's in the 3 months up to the end of January this year, compared with the same period in 2020 before the pandemic. Such a comparison means that the pandemic and the situation in Ukraine cannot be blamed for the UK's serious trade slump. And despite Brexiteers' claims that we have 60 additional trade deals since leaving the EU, the government's own Office of Budget Responsibility makes it clear that none of the new free trade agreements or other regulatory changes announced so far would be sufficient to impact its forecasts for the UK's trade decreasing by 4% year on year as a long-term effect of Brexit. The CPB World Trade Monitor now shows that Britain is the only country where goods exports remain below 2010 levels. You'll see in this graph how the light blue line shows the UK alone, way below the 100 index set in 2010. You'll also notice the huge drop coinciding with Brexit. After 11 years of Tory rule, we export less now than under the last Labour government, even before adjusting 2010 prices for 12 years of inflation. That is shocking, and it's hardly surprising that we're currently enduring a cost of living crisis. Brexit is clearly a significant factor. The sanctions reluctantly and belatedly imposed on Russian companies and oligarchs by a British Tory government steeped in Russian donations are insignificant compared to the self-imposed sanctions due to Brexit and the level of punishment it's now exacting on the British population. And it's not just the economy that Brexit has impacted. I was very interested this week to read a letter sent to the Financial Times by retired Air Commodore and former attaché, Mr. Carl Scott, who stated that Brexit has emboldened Putin's regime. Mr. Scott believes that Brexit was brought about by changes in British society that he only noticed when returning from many years' service overseas. And he said that the changes that brought about Brexit all served the interests of our lucrative status as a safe haven for corrupt and corrupting wealth. So what does current Chancellor Rich Kid Sunak have to say about all this? Well, at first, he was too busy prattling about on his latest self-publicity stunt, pretending to refuel a £12,000 Kia Rio that he'd actually borrowed from a member of staff at the Sainsbury's where he was pretending to fill up. When he was challenged about this deception, Sunak protested that he himself actually drove an ageing VW Golf. What he failed to mention is that him and his billionaire wife also own a top-of-the-range BMW, a high-end Lexus, both at their Santa Monica mansion, and also a Range Rover at his posh home in his posh constituency of posh Richmond, Yorkshire. Sorry, rich kid, but your Man of the People Act is fooling no one. When he eventually responded to questions about the trade figures I've given in this video, shifty SUNAK admitted that our EU exit is largely to blame for Britain performing worse than any other advanced economy. And then he stated that it was always inevitable that Brexit would have an impact on trade flows. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't remember reading that on the side of that bus. In fact, I remember very clearly Brexit Minister David Thick-as-Mince-Davies back in 2016 promising us that there will be no downside to Brexit, only a considerable upside. Meanwhile, it was also revealed this week that Bojo Johnson's number 10 is considering yet another delay to implementing full Brexit regulations, already postponed multiple times, and most recently until July this year. The planned extra physical Brexit checks on agri-food and plant products will be an additional £1 billion of annual costs arising from Brexit, along with another mountain of Brexit red tape. Officials are apparently worried that these additional costs and admin will lead to suppliers completely shunning the UK market, leading to some foods disappearing from British shops altogether, and further price hikes on the remaining foods, which of course will only make the cost of living crisis even worse. That's why the Tories are considering proposals to push the latest stage of Brexit implementation back until 2023. That will be 7 years after the referendum, and Brexit will still not be done. Oven ready? Sorry, Brexit voters, but the senior members of this government took you for fools, including Jacob Rees-Smug, the so-called Brexit Opportunities Minister, who has been busy pleading with Sun readers to give him some ideas of where he might find some. He is arguing for the latest tranche of Brexit import controls to be abandoned altogether. In other words, he doesn't actually want the very hard Brexit he championed to actually be implemented by taking back control of our borders. But I thought that was exactly what Mog, Blojo and the rest of the Brexit brigade promised Brexit would mean, to take back control of our borders. I mean, this is pure Brexit la-la land, where the government is running away from the consequences of the very Brexit deal that they themselves negotiated, championed and sold to a gullible electorate. And by not implementing these controls, the government is risking a legal challenge under World Trade Organization rules, as the policy effectively gives preferential treatment to the EU over the rest of the world. And even if no legal challenge is forthcoming, the delay also gives EU companies a competitive advantage and an unlevel playing field, as they can send goods to the UK without any costly bureaucracy, whereas UK companies have to comply with procedures and standards imposed by the EU on UK exports to the bloc post-Brexit. But fear not. Rees-Mogg has plans to create the most effective border in the world by 2025, he says. Apparently, it uses a combination of data, technology, trusted relationships, unicorns and rainbows.